Well. Hey, Ryan. Hey, welcome Ryan Clark back to the show. RC, I got to tell you something. They said, hey, RC's coming. We're doing a reunion. I said, okay, so that goes the entire 2025 budget. You just took the whole budget?
Hey, DC, I got to be really honest about something, man. Every time I'm watching the pay-per-views and you do the chill DC good guy, bad guy promo, I get a little jealous. Like there's a little piece of me, if I didn't love you so much, a little piece of me be like, I hope nobody don't watch it. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. Like
I love to hate. You know, I be loving to hate. I love to hate. I live for it. RC, hey, bro. So having you back on the show is amazing. Honestly, I love that you were able to come on and do this. But are you able to keep up with it as much as you did before? Because now you're extremely busy with all the new jobs. Congratulations and everything. Yeah. What has your year been like with the UFC in 2024?
I mean, it's been good, man. I've been tapped in. Obviously, you know, we had the roller coaster with Chandler and Conor McGregor. We had Chandler on the show on the pivot. Jamal Hill acting like he want to throw hands, but he don't really throw hands because the last time they threw hands, his hands wasn't throwing like they were supposed to be throwing, but Alex's was. But it's been fun. I think that the craziest thing for me, DC, is like being a UFC fan who started with Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, then moved into the era with you and John. And, you know, we had these champions that you could count on, right? It was the Kamaru Usmans. It was the Alexander Volkanovski. It was the Israel Adesanya. And, like, we've transitioned from those guys, right? And now we're with Ilia Topuria, and Alex Pereira is one of the greatest fighters that's ever lived. And it's really cool, though, that through all that, like, John Jones is still around, right? And we're still waiting for the next.
How?
Don.
How's that possible? Like, this dude literally like, hey, man, I don't care how you feel about him. I might not mess with the dude on that level, but how? Like, it's been, I think he was a champion in 2011 for the first time. That's a crazy thought that through all that, all those dudes, I mean, 3 generations of players, that's kind of like, what's that guy's name that we were talking about when I was comparing him to Jim Miller, the lineman that played 20 years, and you were like, he played for the Rams. We said
Andrew Whitworth.
Right? We're like, he's not going to be able to do this and get to the Hall of Fame for time served. It's like, so Tom Brady played, but it'll be like Tom Brady playing through 30 years of football. 3 different generations of players at quarterback, because it's not being a lineman. It's not being an undercard guy. It's a main event guy that has been main eventing for 13 years. That really is an insane thought.
DC, I do have this question for you, because when I watch this new surge of champions, I think about the Kamaru Usmans, right? Who for so long had to get up for the next best fighter in his division year after year, the next big main event. The same thing with Israel Adesanya. How difficult is it for champions like yourself to continue to fight the best of the best and come out on top the way that John has?
It's impossible. It's almost impossible, especially if they do it for a long time. That's why you'll watch a guy like Usman or Volkanovski, where they just kind of go and they're rolling, right? And it seems like they're unbeatable. Remember when we used to talk about Piotr Jan? We're like, oh my God, he's never gonna lose. And then somebody gets him. But it's like you're up and you're up and you're up. But the whole time that you're up and you're the man and you're landing that big, beautiful house, there's a young man that doesn't have what you have. And as you're doing a lot, right? As you're trying to still be the best, he's doing like a little bit more. Because he wants for what you have. It's like having a guy just walking you down constantly. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult. But, you know, you have to continue to get better. But I felt like this year, bro, we saw a lot of turnover. And I will say this, right? I know you're tapped in because our group message is still crazy active. Every fight night, I see that DCRC pop up. I see this boy right here still active. That's it. But dude, the year's been great for the UFC. It continues to get bigger and bigger. But when you look back, is there a moment that you could point to that stood out to you more than any? I'll give you some examples. UFC 300, right?
Yep.
What about International Fight Week? When Dan Ige is weighing in on the day of the fight. You know, Pereira knocking out Khalil, he just beat up Khalil Roundtree.
Honestly, DC, like you don't even have to keep running through these. And I know the year didn't end for this guy the way he wanted to, but for me, it's going to be Max and Justin Gaethje.
God, yes.
Like it's just from my standpoint, right? Like the thing that I always loved about watching you, watching Kane, just watching the best of the best do this was I was like, I would never do that. You know what I'm saying? Like not even step into the octagon. That's why I gained this large level of respect. But watching Max facing the bigger guy, facing a real life killer, somebody that people don't want to stand toe to toe and throw with, and dominating him for 5 rounds.
Yep.
And then I know it's just 10 seconds, but for 10 seconds saying, okay, we're just gonna turn this into a street fight. Let's let all skill go and let's see who the toughest is. And for both of them to answer, but when Max finished it, bro, with the second left in the way that he finished it, to me, that's gonna be a UFC moment that 15, 20 years from now, the biggest of UFC fans, you're gonna ask them, hey, what made you love the sport? And they're gonna point to that moment.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the ones for me too. I loved watching that. That was a great moment. But for me, it's just so many of them. But I always wonder, right? Being on the inside of this thing, right? I always wonder what the idea and the perception is of these new guys, right? Because like you said, you fall in love with the Adesanya, but there's always a time where somebody's going to get him. What do you think of Ilia, right? The whole thing, though. The whole setup, the fighting, the style. Bro, I tell you, I interviewed this man at the beginning of the year when he told me he was going to knock out Volkanovski. Bro, Henry Cejudo and his team be wearing like these bedazzled sweatsuits. Yo, Ilia walked out with a Versace one, son. His whole team was straight Versace. Bro, I tried to push him the other day to move his hair. Hair don't even move, RC. Like, it's all just in place. Everything is like tight with this dude, but also it's fighting. Like, what does the world think of Ilia Topuria watching him from the outside?
You know, like, it's almost at some points too manicured.
You think so?
Like,
he don't look like a fighter.
Yeah, it's almost too together, but like that's the cool part about him. To me, the MMA fighter, the mixed martial artist continues to evolve, right? And it's like anything else. It's going to evolve because you've had people come before you, so you've set these things in place. Like if you remember, Conor got to the point of the extravagant suits and being manicured, but this was once Conor became Conor, once he was a champion. Ilia Topuria has been building this his entire life. He was like, when I get there, this is what I'm gonna look like. This is what my girl's gonna look like. This is what my family's gonna be. This is how we're gonna walk into the arena on fight night. And I think all of that led him to this point, but it's like anything else. In fighting, it don't matter if you can't fight. Like to knock out, you know, we talked about it on the group chat, like what would be equivalent to what he's done with Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway back to back, right? And, you know, I know we threw some things out there and I can't even remember I think what it was saying if Alex knocked out you and John during your prime, right? Which would just be absolutely nuts. I think that's kind of a step above what Ilia did, but it's right in line with that. 2 legends, 2 great champions who seemed to only be able to beat one another in the weight class. And for Ilia Topuria to beat them in resounding fashion, man, and then hit you with the vino, right? Honestly, it's an oxymoron. You shouldn't be that cute and that violent. You didn't pay to do both, DC.
Hey, Ryan, I got a couple quick things before I let you go. One, dude, a staple of our show was making horrible predictions. Bro, like we were literally the worst at predictions last year. So I will give mine really fast, and then I'll let you give yours after I just run down what we did last year. Last year we did fights I wanted to see. Okay. I said Jones-Miocic, which we got. McGregor-Chandler, which now it seems like they're talking about fighting each other again. Then I said Jones versus Miocic, Jones winner versus Tom Aspinall. That might happen. I said my male fighter of the year was going to be Tom Aspinall. Wrong. I said my female fighter of the year was going to be Erin Blanchfield. double wrong. And I said that my new champion by December would be Shavkat. I almost got that because if Bilal didn't get hurt, they would have fought. So maybe. But again, I was horrible as I always was. Yours, fights to see, Jones Aspinall, wrong. O'Malley Merab, you actually got. Pantoja Moreno 3. I think that fight happened. It happened so far. So you might have got 2 right on that one. You said your fighter of the year was Sean O'Malley. Wrong. Female fighter of the year, Zhang Wei Li, which could still be.
Yeah.
And then your new champion by December was Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill.
That's why you can't pick based on people you like. Like, you can't do that. Like, that's not how the fight game works. I like Jamal. You know, I hung out with him a little bit. He was fun. And then this happens. But isn't that what's great about the fight game, though? Like, you actually can't predict it. And honestly, when I look back at Merab Sean, I probably could have predicted that, right? Like, you expected that was how it was going to go. I thought Sean would let his hands go at some point. I don't think we didn't get Marino Pantoja 3 because Marino lost to Roval.
Yeah, he lost to Royval. Yep, he lost to
Royval, so we didn't get that. But it's also, too, think of where we are when we do get Tom and John, right?
Yep.
That's going to be a legacy fight like no other for both men. Whoever we get to see Alex fight in his next 6 fights that'll all probably happen in 2025 because the dude just likes to punch on people. You know, he finally took a break. But my thing is, like, when you're Sean O'Malley and you get the championship and then you lose, and you lose to a guy in a way that seems like if you fought him 10 times, you beat him maybe once, and that's if you caught him. Like, how does that star, DC, continue to shine when you don't have the gold?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a little bit harder. It's a little harder. He's going to have a tough time dealing with all that. But RC, we got to let you go. You're so busy. Last one quick. Male fighter of the year for 2025. 1 word, let me know it.
Ilia
Topuria, 2025. I will get you on next year for another round of horrible predictions, RC. And last thing before we hang out, hey, boy, I know you see me in my new Mark Russell suits.
You've been clean. You've been clean.
I know you see it. And I know you got that nice little RC pin. My boy, you're doing your thing. As always, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate it. Guys, that was a DC RC reunion. You know we love the boy RC. RC, have a great new year, my brother. Thank you for checking in with me. You're the man. These guys.